We have a prepared statement that you should have by now. If not, we'll make sure you get one. And I'll be reading that, and afterwards we will prepare to answer some questions. On yesterday, the Louisiana House of Representatives voted 65 yeas and 31 nays and passed House Bill 71 by Representative Thomas Conley. Legislation that professes to protect public military memorials. But in reality, this bill is nothing but a Trojan horse designed to supersede the decision-making authority of local municipalities regarding use of public space. What the passage of HB 71 really revealed was that there is still present in Louisiana a deep-rooted belief in white supremacy and a desire to revere those who fought against the United States of America in the American Civil War. The Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus is offended and deeply wounded by the House's passage of this legislation. We were and are wounded because the bill attempts to rewrite history by honoring those who not only rebelled against the United States, but who fought to maintain man's greatest inhumanity to man. The system of slavery where our ancestors were considered property, less than human, women raped and abused, men slaughtered at will, and systems implemented to facilitate cultural genocide. We believe that yesterday's vote was a failure of legislative leadership, adding fuel to the fire regarding this proven divisive issue. We should be providing leadership which unite the people of Louisiana and laboring to solve the challenges facing our state. We believe as legislators, we are here to address issues that have our citizens lagging behind the rest of the nation in far too many areas, and we should be addressing these quality of life issues for our citizens, which include the following: our looming budget challenge, quality education, equal pay for women, a living wage for our citizens, criminal justice reform, health care, and the list just goes on and on. We believe that there is no reason we cannot be first in respect of each other, in how we treat each other, and how we rise above images of war, hate, slavery, and
is a nation within a nation. A nation within a nation is tonight's topic. We want you to call a relative, call a friend, call your cousin, your auntie, and let them know that the community defender is on, and we're dealing with a nation within a nation. And it's kind of like when a woman is carrying a baby in a late-term situation. There is a person within a person. And that person that's within a person, in a vessel that is called a womb, cannot stay inside of that person for long. Otherwise, both the mother as well as the child will die if that child is not delivered. And so it's a situation where we as black people are a nation within a nation. And now we must be delivered from the system that is called America, just as the baby must be delivered from the structure that is called a uterus or womb. And we're in that situation right now where America is having labor pains and really needs to give up what she has within her, which is a nation within a nation. This is what the Honorable LUS Fiber was talking about recently on the Cliff Kelly show up there in Chicago, WBON. An awesome program where the Honorable LUS Fiber really laid out, I believe, in grand fashion, Allah's divine instruction and desire for black people. Sister Deborah?
Absolutely. In terms of it being time for a black nation that's within America to be born, I mean, when you look at all the things that are happening and all the events that are occurring, as one of my brothers would say, that you see that they're becoming more and more frequent. You see weather and calamity becoming more frequent. You see clashes between different groups becoming more frequent. Even if you look in the government with Donald Trump, you see these issues that are going on that are exposing the falsehood and lies that we have believed for so long. They're coming back to back to back to back. They no longer can hold the lies like they used to. All of those things are signs of the impending birth of a new nation that's coming forth. And so, you know, as with Pharaoh and Moses, Moses went to Pharaoh and said, let my people go. And of course, you know, Pharaoh didn't want to let the children of Israel go, but eventually he had to give them up because the God of Moses was such a powerful God that he sent plagues down, he sent, you know, pestilence and famine, even killing the firstborn of the Pharaoh until he had to let the people go. And even then, when Pharaoh decided that he was going to let the children of Israel go, then because of the hatred and the hardness in his heart, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, he goes after the children of Israel, you know, to try to kill them before they cross, of course, the Red Sea, which we know the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has told us that Red Sea represents war. So, we should be looking for the birth of a new nation to come full-fledged any day now. And so, you know, these are the signs that indicate that the time is at hand.
I really think that, you know, if we look at the incredible patience and the incredible perseverance of the black community within America, how loyal black people have been to the ideals of America that have been articulated in the media.
Absolutely.
And how that loyalty has day after day led to more problems within the black community. I think that our loyalty to the American system has not been something that we've benefited from. And indeed, this government, the government of the United States of America, has a hatred for black people that is something you could literally cut with a knife. Recently in Baton Rouge, when there were demonstrations because of the murder of Alton Sterling, and of course there have been other police murders as well in Baton Rouge, as well as there's been a lot of taser murders right here in the Lafayette area.
Victor White the
third.
That's right.
And so on and on. People beat to death in jail, so on and so forth. So it's a situation where I believe we've been patient, but that patience has not been rewarded with those things that were implied, nor those things that were promised. And I just believe it's time that black people give up on these ideals, let them go. They will not happen. It's kind of like a woman that's been it's been married to somebody that beat her for 5 years, and she hopes maybe in the 6th year he'll stop beating her, even though there's no sign that he's going to stop beating her. Yet they continue to have this false hope that one day he'll treat her nice. We don't have a history of nice treatment by America to base a belief in the eventual niceties that are to come. We do not have any evidence at all that America will at any point in her history be a just nation to black people. The only evidence that we have, though, is that America has a plan to slowly and or quickly murder black people. That's America's plan. That's what I think we have to understand that America's plan is, and we are a nation within a nation.
Right.
But now we have to get outside of the American structure and do something for ourselves. And that's one of the things that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan was saying on the Cliff Kelly show, which went all over the world. And of course, if somebody wants to, they can of course look on Darrell Muhammad's Facebook page and actually see that whole interview, which I believe is very important, right up to date with the modern time, as the Honorable Louis Farrakhan laid that thing out. And in a few moments, we'll show you about 10 minutes of that interview, and hopefully you'll go on YouTube and pull it down. Sister Deborah?
Well, for our viewing audience, a lot of us really are interested, Brother Darrell, in, hearing or understanding why, at the Community Defender Talk Show, we take this position because, of course, to many people, this may seem like a very radical position, stating what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, that separation is the best and it's the only solution to the problem between the blacks and whites of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And so, many people think that, well, how can we separate? I don't want to go anywhere, or I don't want to separate from anybody. And I know some good, white people, or I know some, you know what I'm saying? They've been good to me, and somebody's been good. So could you tell, or explain in a little more detail, what are some of the reasons outside of the obvious, the shootings, that have gone on? What are some of the other things that, we can point to show that within America, black people have not received justice, nor will they receive justice
Not
under
within,
the
not
system?
within the American system. Number one, there's no history of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no history. There's been no time where black people have not been discriminated against, brutalized, killed, murdered in prison, and so on. There's always been a class of us
Mm-hmm.
who, through whatever education that they allowed us to have been able to do a little better than the majority.
Mm-hmm.
But those people that do a little better than the majority have to walk a really, really fine line, and they're really not comfortable in the sense that they can say what they want, do what they desire, and still stay in that comfortable situation. So they know that their life is in peril, even as they try to remain economically comfortable, occupationally comfortable, yet they're not comfortable because they know that can be taken away from them at any time because they have to walk a fine line. They know there's a glass ceiling. The thing about it is the idea of good white people, whether or not they're good white people or not, it's not enough of them to make a difference. So even if I say, there's a good white guy right over there, that's not enough to make a difference in terms of 1 million black men being in jail, millions more having a criminal record for doing the same identical thing that white people do all the time. That's not enough. So even if what some of them say is true, it's not enough to justify remaining in the system that is called the United States of America. So if one or two of them are quote unquote good, the vast majority have always been oppressive. That's our history. There were some abolitionists
Right.
during the time of slavery that believed that slavery was wrong. A few of them. Okay. However, that was not enough to get us out of slavery.
Right.
Slavery did not end because abolitionists protested. Slavery ended because they felt it was in their economic interest to end it for the purposes of maintaining the Union and their own political power. As Lincoln said, if he could preserve the Union and not free a slave, he would do so. So it was not about freeing the slaves; it was about the preservation of a Union, and he was willing to do that at all costs. The freedom of black people is not something that white people have ever went to war for. So people should not believe that the Civil War was fought for you to free you. Hell no. If it was fought to free you, you would have been treated better after it was over. But you were lynched, hung, castrated, and you are continuing to be lynched, hung, castrated to this very day on various different levels, all over. Now we have more elected officials now. We have, some 11,000 elected officials that are black.
People who are making, 80, 90, 100, six
Right.
figures.
And you can get a job, but you can't get justice. You can get a house, but you can't get freedom. You can get a 401k or a car, but you cannot get equality. Freedom, justice, and equality are withheld from the majority of blacks, and the majority of blacks can't even get a decent job. The majority of blacks are uncomfortable economically. So for the majority of us, we are really not gaining anything. And for the few, the 2 or 3 relatives that may possess extraordinary education and ability, who white folks are willing to pay additional money, hey, your situation is tenuous. So my thing is that if you look at it from the greatest good for the greatest number, ultimately, we're going to have to strike a deal with the powers that be, with the help of God, attacking that situation. And we're going to have to strike a deal that allows us to go free. Now, some people are going to say that's not right. America.
What do you mean that's not right?
They're going to say all people should be together. We should all be together. We all have red blood, so on and so forth. And that's, we all do have red blood.
And all birds have feathers.
And all birds have feathers.
But they don't flock together.
That is true. The thing I will say is that America believes in separation. She has 28,000 troops in Korea to separate one part of Korea from another.
Right.
And she says, well, they believe in socialism on one side, and they believe in free market on the other side. And because of that one disagreement, she has a demilitarized zone and a base that enforces the separation of one Korea from another Korea, and that they only disagree fundamentally about one thing. They're religiously the same, they're racially the same, they're linguistically the same, yet America enforces separation because of a disagreement in one thing. Now, if America believes that there should be a North Korea and a South Korea, and they only fundamentally disagree supposedly about one thing, how an economy should be run, and the Republicans and Democrats disagree about more things than that.
That's
should
true.
they separate?
That's true.
And I think that if we want our children to live and to have a future, they want our children to be destroyed. How then do we reconcile those two divergent positions? I think a lot of times when we go into these meetings and we have these community town halls, we're not dealing with the real issue. The police will come up there and they'll say, well, we believe we should be supported back to badge. It's not about back to badge. It is about, you want my son dead or in jail, and I want him alive and with a future. We cannot reconcile that. There's no way to slice and dice that. That's the reality of it. And if somebody wants you dead and you want to live, there's going to be a conflict. And that's fundamentally what we've been dealing with the entire time that we've been here. We wanted to be free. They wanted us to be slaves. There's a conflict. And so they want us to always have this servant part of America if we're going to live. And now they're promoting within all of America, but particularly the black community, this feminization of the black man, the skinny jeans. Everything is
Now
becoming.
they have something called bloomers. Well, I know they're called bloomers, but men are wearing bloomers. I mean, we have our sports figures wearing bloomers like women wear bloomers now.
I mean, they're promoting the emasculation of our males, okay? And so the longer that we don't deal with the crux of the matter, because the bottom line of it is, Trump is in office. Everybody's so upset that Trump is in office, but Trump is more honest than Bill Clinton was, more honest than Hillary was.
Absolutely.
And so now Jeff Sessions has said that he's instructed all of his U.S. attorneys to seek the most provable and serious offense to charge somebody with, and list everything, all of the quantities, so that it triggers the mandatory minimums. And people say, oh man, those Republicans are, yeah, but that law was championed by Hillary, signed by Bill, the Democrats, and the majority of Democrats voted for it also. So like the minister said, you've been with the Democrats and you've got nothing. That's pretty much what we've gotten, is nothing from the Democrats except nice rhetoric, but they have never been able to deliver. And we got a Republican racist, Jeff Sessions, that is enforcing a law. For, he's from the South.
Crime bill.
The crime bill signed. He's a man from Alabama enforcing a law that was enacted and signed into law by another Southerner from Arkansas. So you got two Southern boys working together. One Bill, who y'all thought you liked, another one from Alabama. But they both are working together for the destruction of our community. And understand this, they are not going to seek those mandatory minimums on white people. As our sister proves in the book, The New Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander, it is almost like a laser beam focused on just our people when Caucasians use drugs, smoke crack, sell crack at a higher rate than we do, slightly, and they're not in prison. And so basically some studies have said that if you incarcerated whites at the rate of their crime, at the same rate of their crime that you do black, there would be about 4 to 5 million people in jail instead of the 2.2 million, and it would be mostly whites, because white people commit crime. So when Trump said, they're sending their rapists here, talking about the Mexicans. No, Trump, the rapists were already here. You call them founding fathers, but they're actually founding rapists.
And when they go to other countries, the military, those white boys go in there and rape the native people.
There was a whole article about there are thousands, Sister Deborah, of half white, half Vietnamese children all over Vietnam, all on the streets, because the father is gone, and some of these people have been reunited. Some half black and half ones too. But the bottom line of it is, everywhere America goes, there's a sexual exploitation of the woman that they find. The same in Africa, the same everywhere. So the rapists, and keep in mind, there was wholesale rape of Iraqi boys and girls at these prisons. And I mean literal rape of the boys in prison by American soldiers.
Well, we saw that with Abu Ghraib. They couldn't even hold that out.
And Abu Ghraib was only one detention place. The same thing was going on everywhere. If it was going on in Abu Ghraib, the character of the people was the same. And right on the internet, there was a LA police officer just raping a 17-year-old girl in a holding area, holding her down and just raping her right there and going on about his business. And from what I understand, he hadn't even been charged yet. They're still debating whether or not they should charge him. The bottom line of it is, how long are you going to sit here and deal with this and not say,
something's wrong.
Something's the problem. And even on Facebook, I have a few Facebook friends that just don't get it. But it's good, that you have social media where you can kind of gauge people's minds and see where we are. But
well, before you go into that,
go ahead.
Well, I just want to deal with.
I wanted to mention that one thing before we go to the minister. But go ahead.
But what we really have to look at as a community of people, we have the symptoms, okay? But then what is the cause? What is the root cause of why we are in the condition that we're in today? And of course, our people perish for a lack of knowledge. And the reason that the enemy has us in this death grip is because we really don't understand what we're dealing with. And we really can't understand what we're dealing with for the simple fact that the educational system that we are under, from the time that you enter it, the images that you see in your textbooks, they look like the people that are oppressing you. The images that you see on television look like your oppressors. So you actually take on a psychology that loves your oppressor, like the Stockholm Syndrome. So you can't get away from him because you think that the one that has you as a captor is someone who cares about you. So, it's education, it's a knowledge of self, it's a knowledge of the enemy to self, it's a knowledge of God, and it's a knowledge of the time and what must be done. The religion that we give, and that's a cause. People are looking back 2,000 years ago for a savior that was here 2,000 years ago, when right now we are more in need of a Savior 2,000 years later than we ever were in need of a Savior 2,000 years ago when Jesus walked the earth.
I mean, it's a psychosis that is caused by media, everything else. We have to be raised up to the knowledge of ourselves and the knowledge of God. And as we say all the time at Mosque number 65 and other mosques in the Nation of Islam, under the Honorable Louis Farrakhan's leadership, whoever will not treat you right will not teach you right.
That's right.
And we have to bear witness that the enemies do not treat us right. Therefore, if they give us religion, we have to question it. How in the world, if the largest child sex ring in the world is an actual church headquartered in Rome,
which is the fountainhead of all Christendom.
I mean, we got to question it. And you're talking about, in some of these dioceses on the East Coast, some 200 priests documented messing with little boys, impregnating little girls. I mean, this is something that people have to look at in us as black people. And again, I don't want to offend somebody from a religious standpoint, because we all have to work together. But you have to look at that. You have to say, well, what the heck is going on, that this is such an epidemic in a certain religious order, that you have widespread sexual abuse of children all over, not just in America, but all over the world.
Right.
What is going on that bishops are in the Vatican ordering male prostitutes to come in the Vatican so that they can engage in sexual activity with another man, yet the official position of the Catholic Church is that homosexuality is wrong, yet the people at the head of the church are doing nothing but a bunch of homosexuality. All of that has to be looked at and examined and see if this is where I need to be as a black person, because we have to question everything that Europeans gave black people, from religion to education to the news perspective, history, everything. We almost have to throw it all out and start over from scratch and build ourselves up again into the knowledge of self, the knowledge of God, the time at which includes what must be done in that time. Now, we got a report right here in the final call where 1 in 5 incarcerated blacks is serving a life sentence, or what they call a virtual life sentence, in America's prisons. Meaning that a guy may be 50 years old and he might be serving an 80-year sentence. That's really life.
Right.
Okay. Or so people who will never get out again. So 1 out of 5 blacks in jail is projected not even to ever get out again. And it's not like that with the other community. It's not like that. So, I mean, how long are you going to, and keep in mind, economic withdrawal. You got to leverage what you have. If we have some 400,000 black people in the U.S. Armed Services, 400,000 of us in the U.S. Armed Services, they would not be able to oppress the planet Earth to the degree that they can if we were not helping them. And then we don't have freedom when we get home, and that would be one of the largest armies in the world. If you took black people out, it would be probably in the top 10 of the largest armies in the world right there. And we helped them in Vietnam. We helped them in Korea. We helped them in Iraq to mess over other people, to do things that were unchristlike and ungodly. We, the black man, without the knowledge of ourselves, help them, and we don't even say, if you don't treat me right, I'm not going to join the military. We don't even threaten them with any consequences. We just give them our service, give them our lives, no matter how bad they treat us. And so there's no incentive. We have not given America any incentive to treat us right, because no matter what they do to us, we will be loyal, we will pledge allegiance to the flag, we will sing the national anthem, we will stand up we are actually, according to most surveys, more patriotic than white people are. I don't know if people realize this. The people who claim to love America the most are actually the slave, the one who in Django who loved Candyland the most was the house Negro. Stephen said that we're going to always have a Candyland. And until his dying moment in that movie. But that movie represents an actual true dynamic in the black community of how we think if we're given privilege. So some black people who've been given a badge, you stand there and let some racist officer kick and beat your brother, and you support and line up with the enemy of your own people because they brought you through a police academy and gave you a badge. That's a worthless kind of individual that needs to be reformed and made valuable with truth. But the bottom line of it is we can no longer. We're a nation within a nation. So we have to start thinking separately because the people in government are definitely not thinking for our health. They're about to get rid of the little health care that the brother was able to pass. They're about to get rid of the little reprieve with all of the hard sentencing that Barack Obama was able to do. He didn't stop us from going to jail. He just slowed it down a little bit. And instead of us going to jail for 20 years or 25 years, we went to jail for 15. But all he did was slow it down a little bit. But he never stopped the machine. The machine kept going, and now it's just being announced that the same machine, we're going to now speed it up and let it do exactly what we made it to do, which is destroy a community of people, destroy families. Yes, right. A nation of people, a nation within a nation. So the thing about it is we're in a danger zone.
Well, let me just interject before you go on to this next point. Now, you were laying out an argument, a clear argument about why we should separate from our open enemy, from those who are actively working to oppress this nation within inside of this nation. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is, the economy that is generated by this small nation inside of this larger nation would be the equivalent of about the ninth most grossing nation in the world. Now, we probably as black people have more quote unquote education than other black people have all over the planet.
And even other European nations. We are probably more educated as black people than a lot of those Eastern European nations that have their own army, their own navy, their own air force, that have their own land and grow their own food. Our education bank, our knowledge bank, our skills bank with the engineers, doctors, lawyers that we have is probably greater than a lot of European nations themselves right now.
And that's the point that I want to make. I want to make this point. If we have the money that is generated within our community that comes through the hands of this 35 to 40 million black and brown people in America, we have the most education of all black people in the world, and as Brother Darrell said, some of the Eastern European nations. The question we have to ask ourselves, what benefit is that education that we get doing for us? Or are we getting an education that the enemy, our open enemy, has designed for us to make our education work for him and our dollars work to continue to uphold and support his society? If you had the proper education along with the money, we can do just like any other peoples do with their money. We can circulate that money back in our community. We can buy up the blocks of these blighted, and within our community. How many houses are abandoned on every block in the black neighborhood? How many businesses have pulled out of the black neighborhood? What could we do with the money that we generate within our communities if we only had the proper knowledge?
We could absolutely free ourselves. Go ahead, caller. You on the air with the community defender.
Yes, good evening, Sister Deborah and Brother Darrell. Hey, look here, always, you guys are very enlightening to the people that's listening to you guys. But the thing of it is, everything y'all saying, y'all absolutely correct. I can't take nothing away from you guys and what y'all saying. But we are separated now. you know, and it's called a Democratic Party and a Republican Party. You know, it's called North Side, South Side. The South Side is predominantly white. The North Side is predominantly black. You know, Sister Deborah, what you were saying about we could come together, and the money that is generated through us, if we could just put our heads and our hearts together among ourselves, we could buy these properties up. We could have stores in our community. At one time, I was talking about opening up a furniture factory, you know, and when I started talking about opening up that furniture factory, hey, our people looked at me like I had a third eyeball or I had a tail on the side of me hanging, you know. But Charles Barkley, you know, is doing a segment right now on America and racism, and he's done it with the Muslim community in urban Texas. You know, I thought that was very interesting, the way he took and went into the Muslim community in Irvine, Texas, and start talking to them. We all are humans, you know, but you got such hatred in the white races, white supremacists, you know, till sometimes it's hard to get things done. The four statutes that came down, they're talking about their history. What about our history? When we start talking about our history, it ain't good enough for them, you know. So we have to understand our history and make sure that we get our history out, our history is told, and we ain't got to care about nothing. You got a lot of these people that's been on jobs, they retired from jobs, they act like they don't want to get involved. You know, if nothing could happen to you now, you don't have to work. You worked already. Get involved. Let's make some of these things happen that need to happen for us, you know, and that's the bottom line. I thank you guys for, you know, coming on and trying to throw the brick in the graveyard and, you know, make people aware of self, because we need to be aware of self more than what we are. Thank you guys. Y'all have a blessed one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We definitely appreciate your call, and of course, I want to definitely, you know, agree, touch and agree with the caller. I would say, yeah, we're all human in terms of our physical form, but we are not all human in terms of how we act and the mind that we have.
And the minister called it transgenic seed.
Yeah, the transgender.
And the time of what must be done. He explained that whole, you know, concept of the Iceman's inheritance and how, you know, the psychology of whites, you know, how it manifests itself.
No doubt about it, and that's an awesome lecture that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan gave, and light that he brings to that situation. The thing is that when you look at George Bush, you look at even Bill Clinton, you look at Hillary, you look at Donald Trump, you are really not looking at humans when you look at those people. You're looking at beasts in human form. When you look at Jeff Sessions, that is not, and I would defy anybody to prove that in a spiritual, mental way that Jeff Sessions is actually a human. He is not a human being. He is an evil-natured beast in human form. That's what he is, and you can tell by what he's attempting to do that he is not trying to conduct himself in a human way. And it's the same with Donald Trump. He's not a human. He may be in human form, but he's a money-hungry, bloodthirsty beast that looks like a person. He is not one. And he has turned his back on his humanity, or what could be his humanity, by the way that he has acted. We got a caller. Go ahead, caller. You on there with the community defender.
Greetings, Brother Darren. Greetings to you, Sister Deborah. Great show tonight. You are accurately describing Jeff Sessions. It's not even going overboard in the accurate description of him. But you know what? Unfortunately, here in the state of Louisiana, we got many Jeff Sessions. We even have one called Jeff Landry, who's the Attorney General of this state. Brother Darren, I want you to speak to the issue. They got several issues, and I would urge people, when in doubt, listen to the minister. He has several telecasts, because we have to wade through all of this crazy stuff that's going on in government. Don't know which return and who to listen to. I think if some of the insight, the minister, a great guidance in this time of turmoil. Brother Dara, the issues in the state of Louisiana, we saw last week that Louisiana caucus, maybe in the Senate too, I don't know if all of them banded together, and
Caller, you are breaking up very, very bad, but I believe that you're talking about the legislative black caucus walking out when they were trying to pass a bill so that the monuments, they would have to be a vote in order for them to remove the Civil War monuments that are all over the state of Louisiana, because I think they see a movement. Right. And
Brother Darren, you hear me?
Yes, sir.
And one of the things I want to say is, should we as black folk get caught up in that whole symbolism over substance? While it's a noble stance, and I'm so proud that they did something, but they could also do that when there's some other important issues like jobs, economics, money, education. That's what we want to see them do. Prison reform, criminal justice issues, police brutality. If they were band together like that every time there's those issues that I just stated, then we'll be somewhere in the state of Louisiana, because I think we have enough sizable population to make an impact. We don't want to see it on symbolism over substance. I want you to talk about that. Another issue, I'm going to hurry up, jump off the line, Brother Darren. And here from Lafayette, put about the death penalty. But we caught in that rope-a-dope stuff that these Caucasians try to do on us. One of his fellow Representative Steve Pallant, who to the bill to do away with the death penalty, voted against the bill for a tie-breaking vote. So he basically bragged in the newspaper that he said he wasn't intended on voting for that bill anyway. So
you are breaking up significantly.
In a sense, tried to be on the side. So I want you to speak to that. And I'm sorry, I apologize about that, the phone breaking up. Thank you so much.
The thing I'll say is, and it's interesting, that Mitch Landrieu is presiding over the removal of the monuments from known races, and that's on one level that's okay, but in the city of New Orleans, black people are being priced out of their city. The city is becoming, you're looking at the Treme district, which used to be an historic black area, of strong, vibrant area, where we who are tempted to come back to New Orleans are actually priced out of the place that we live. So even though he's supposedly removing the symbols of racism, he has not removed the real racism that exists. And in fact, his policies are actually having a negative impact on blacks in New Orleans, in that New Orleans is less black today than it has been in decades, and it's due to the policies that he is enforcing and pricing a lot of black people out of living in New Orleans. So
I went to a meeting in New Orleans, and it was education meeting, and some of the educators, they were talking about they closed down all of the public schools, and they switched it over to the Recovery School District, made it charter. So the public schools there were being closed down, and what they were doing is that the school system was taking those schools and they were selling them. And so what they would do, they would put them on an auction. And then when the auction would open up, the property developers would come in and purchase up the property instead of them, and they would sell it for little or nothing, purchase up the property, tear down the schools, build condos that black people in that area couldn't afford to live in. And so then that's how they started to begin to take the community away. So they were selling the schools for little or nothing, property developers come. So New Orleans, when you go down there, you may see some black folk working, but that Canal Street and all that, you see that changing. You see all of that changing. My son is living there.
And it's actually by design that this kind of stuff is happening, and it's happening under Mitch Landrieu. He's removing the statues of racists, but he's using racist policies to remove the very blacks that would be offended by those statues of racism. And I would have to say, you would also have to remove the statue of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, the
American flag.
The American. All of those are symbols of racism. You look at the Star Spangled Banner. It is a racist song.
That's right.
When you look at the history, there's nothing in America that is not tainted with racism.
The design
so
of the dollar bill.
They're going to have to change the name. You know, George Washington University is going to have to change their name. I mean, where do you start with it? And so it goes to
all the
issue.
Institutions named after this. You know,
it goes to the issue. Robert E. Lee High School, so on and so forth. It goes to symbol without substance, and there's no substance behind it. When the people in New Orleans, the blacks in New Orleans, are marginalized, you remove the statue, but you haven't removed the poverty. You remove the statue, but you haven't removed the criminal police department that is continuing to brutalize that population.
And think about it, you're trying to once again try to manipulate the public, and you try to get to rewrite the history. If you remove these symbols, and black people, see, white folks, they ain't never forget. Just like they said after 9/11, you know.
Never forget.
Yes. See, you remove those statues, those symbols that invoke certain emotions within black people, but the reality of the behavior that they erected those statues to represent still are present, then the only people that really will be confused about it are us. Because they're going to continue, because they have control over all of the systems. And so the systems will still be steeped in white supremacy using racism as a tool, but you'll remove the images, so when you start feeling comfortable because you don't see things that invoke that feeling in you, but yet and still the reality of your condition is still the same, then you know what happens. Once again, you become more and more lulled asleep.
That's right.
To what they are actually doing.
Now look, I don't know exactly how much time we have left because I dropped my phone. And let me look. What I want to do, if we can, is in the remaining moments of the program, let's go ahead and run that clip if we can of the minister and that interview, and I'm going to ask everybody to go on YouTube and do a search on Farrakhan and Kelly, and you should be able to pull up that latest video that he did on the Cliff Kelly show. Let's go ahead and see if we can hear from the Honorable Louis Farrakhan on that show and let him close us out.
Factories closed and long lines of persons looking for a job, and he asked us to get up and do something for ourselves before we were forced to do it. Unfortunately, we did not listen, and so now we are being forced by circumstances to do something for ourselves because our depending on others to do it for us will not work. The violence that has been going on incessantly in our community, getting worse and worse by the days, when we are slaughtering ourselves in unprecedented numbers, filled with self-hatred for each other, in a spirit of retaliation and revenge. You kill my dog, I'll kill your cat, as though there are no consequences for this behavior that we have warned us about for the last 3, nearly 4 decades. We've been telling us that we're going to have to pay a price for this. So Mr. Trump has brought into his cabinet Mad Dog Mattis, I don't know about you, but dogs are so lovely as creatures that many of us who have dogs, we love our dogs sometimes more than we love our family members, because the dogs, when we feed them and nurture them, they love us and they'll never turn on us. But a mad dog? A mad dog is a dangerous creature. And to think of sending such a man with such a reputation into Chicago after he has asked our mayor and the police department, you all better get this violence thing straight or we'll have to help you do it. And to help the mayor to do it, they're intending to come and search homes for weapons and kill those who would advance opposition, a slaughter. And in closing my opening statement, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when the children of Israel rebelled against Moses and Aaron and did not want to leave their slave master to build an independent nation of their own under the guidance of God, then God chastised them with fiery serpents and cockatrices. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad asked me one day, do you know what it means, fiery serpents? I said, no, sir. He said, it means angry white people. Now white people are getting more and more angry every day. And as I said on this same wonderful program before Mr. Trump was elected, that the mask of civility, like an onion peeling off, is being peeled off, and now naked hatred, not only in word but in deed, is being openly shown to us. And so, my brothers and sisters, they will come in to chastise us, but since we are no longer forsaken and are the people of God, then God will answer whatever they do of evil to us. And I'm warning the government, and I am warning General Mattis and all those who would kill us outside of the law of justice, that the God of justice will pay you back in full.
Thank you, Brother Minister. Very strong opening statement. We have, you've pointed out, obviously, one of our major problems with this person who is now recognized as our president. But not only do we have a major problem there, we have a problem with the state, we have a problem with the city. I'm talking about our people all across the board. We've got a situation now, we don't have a budget in the state of Illinois. There's all kinds of problems going on. We don't even know, relative to the city, whether our children are going to be able to go back to school when they're supposed to, or whether they're going to have to leave early because of a lack of money. I'm speaking of, as you always do, and I read this great paper, you've probably heard of it, the Final Call. We've got these problems nationally, statewide, and the city. Where do you want to start?
Well, I'll start with the reality. If we're having problems nationally, we're having problems on the state level and then on the local level, what message is that sending to black people who are not supposed to be intelligent, but the grassroots understands what that means? In the time of Moses, it means buckle on your boots and shoes and let's get the hell out of here. As the boy said in the movie, it's time to get out.
Wow. All right. Okay. In the interim, what do we do relative to, before that happens? We've got a lot of people of all ages, Minister Farrakhan. Black Lives Matter has been a great group. Millennials are getting involved, as they should. Younger people. The social media has been good and bad. It's been good in far as organizing, but it's also, I think you would agree, it's been bad relative to gang warfare. A lot of that is totally based on, in fact, a lot of people are saying that now. So my question is, what do we do in the interim here? Because, you know, the nation has trained so many people to do so much good for so many others, including the nation itself. And we look toward the nation, many of us do, of course, and I know this, and you know it, to give us some hope as to what we can do now. Do for self, yes. So what do we do?